Ahbao. It is said that there was a man named Sun Tzu in the east and west of Guangdong, and he was a famous scholar. He was born with 6 fingers, a simple and honest character, and a slow tongue. When others lied to him, he believed them to be true. Sometimes when he saw a singing prostitute sitting at the table, he saw it from a distance and turned around and laughed. When others knew that he had such a temper, they tricked him and let prostitutes tease and force him. He was so embarrassed that his face turned red all the way to his neck, and beads of sweat dripped down his face. Everyone laughed at him because of this, describing him as stupid, spreading rumors everywhere, and gave him the unpleasant nickname Sun Kai. There is a certain man, a big businessman in this county, who is as rich as a prince. His relatives are all from rich and powerful families. A wealthy businessman has a daughter named Ahbao who is very beautiful. Her parents are busy choosing a good son-in-law for her. Many children of famous nobles came to propose marriage, but none of the merchants took any fancy to her. It happened that Sun Tzu's wife died, and someone teased him and persuaded him to propose marriage to a wealthy merchant. Sun Tzu didn't even think about his own situation, so he asked a matchmaker to do it. The businessman also knew Sun Tzu's name, but thought he was too poor and refused to agree. When the matchmaker was about to leave, he happened to meet Ahbao. When Po asked what was going on, the matchmaker told him his purpose. And Po jokingly said, "If he can chop off that extra finger, I will marry him." The matchmaker told Sun Tzu this. Sun said to himself, "It's not difficult." After the matchmaker left, Sun Tzu chopped off the 6th finger with an axe. The blood flowed profusely and he almost died from the pain. A few days later, as soon as I could get up, I went to the matchmaker's house and showed her my hand with 6 fingers chopped off. The matchmaker was shocked and hurriedly went to the wealthy merchant to tell Ahbao. Ahbao was also surprised and made another joke, saying that Sun Tzu had to get rid of that crazy thing. After hearing this, Sun Tzu loudly defended himself, saying that he was not dementia, but he did not have the opportunity to express his love to Ahbao in person. Then I thought about it. Po may not be as beautiful as a fairy, so why should he raise his worth so high? Therefore, the idea of asking for marriage has cooled down. It just so happens that the Qingming festival is here. According to custom, this day is a day for women to go for an outing in the countryside. Some frivolous teenagers also walked together, making comments and making fun of the women at will. Several literary friends and poets also forced Sun Tzu to go there. Some laughed at him and said, "Don't you want to see your lovely beauty?" Sun Tzu knew that everyone was teasing him, but because of Ahbao's, he also wanted to see what kind of person Ahbao was. So he happily walked with everyone and watched. From a distance, I saw a woman resting under a tree. A group of young men surrounded her like a wall. Friends said, "This must be Po." I ran over and took a look, and it turned out to be Ahbao. If you look closely, it is extremely beautiful and touching. After a while, there were more and more people watching, and Ahbao hurriedly got up and left. Everyone was fascinated and almost going crazy with their comments. Only Sun Tzu was silent. Everyone walked away, but when they looked back, Sun Tzu was still standing there blankly, and he refused to respond when called. Everyone came to pull him over and asked, "Has your soul followed Ahbao?" Sun Tzu still didn't speak. It's not surprising to everyone because he is usually dull and seldom talks. Some people pushed him, others pulled him, and went home. After Sun Tzu got home, he fell on the bed. I couldn't sleep all day long, as if I was drunk, and I couldn't wake up even if I shouted. The family thought he had lost his soul, and even trying to summon his soul in the wild did not work. After slapping him hard and asking him, he said vaguely, "I'm at Ahbao's house." When I asked him again, he was silent again. The family members were scared and didn't know what was going on. At first, when Sun Tzu saw Ahbao gone, she felt very sad to let go. He felt that his body had also left with her, and he gradually leaned on her belt, and no one scolded her. So I went home with Ahbao. He stayed with Ahbao when he was sitting or lying down. At night, he had sex with Ahbao, and they were very affectionate and happy. But I just feel very hungry and want to go home, but I don't know the way home. Whenever Ahbao dreamed of having sex with someone and asked him his name, He would always say, "I am Sun Tzu Chu." Ahbao felt very strange, but it was inconvenient to tell others. Sun Tzu Chu lay in bed for 3 days and was about to die. His family members were anxious and frightened, so they asked someone to go to the merchant's house to beg for help in reviving Sun Tzu Chu's soul. The businessman smiled and said, "We have never interacted with each other. How could you leave your soul in my house?" The Sun family begged and begged, and the businessman agreed. The witch came to the merchant's house with Sun Tzu Chu's old clothes and straw mat. After Ahbao knew the reason for her visit, she was so frightened that she didn't let the witch go anywhere else. She took the witch directly to her room and left after being greeted by the witch. As soon as the witch returned to the door of Sun's house, Sun Chu, who was on the bed in the house, was already moaning. After waking up, he could still clearly name the names and colors of Ahbao's indoor furnishings, which was true. After Ahbao heard about it, he was even more frightened, but he also felt the deep friendship between Sun Tzu and Chu. After Sun Chuning got up, whether sitting or standing, he was always thoughtful and in a trance, as if he had lost something. I often inquire about Ahbao and hope to see him again. On the day of the Buddha bathing festival, I heard that Ahbao was going to Shuyu temple to burn incense. Sun Tzu Chu went to wait by the roadside early in the morning. He was dizzy until he saw Ahbao at noon. Ahbao saw Sun Tzu Chu from the car, raised the curtain with his delicate hands and stared at him intently. Sun Tzu Chu became even more moved and followed behind. Ahbao suddenly asked the maid to ask his name. Sun Tzu Chu said this very earnestly, and his soul was even more shaken. He didn't go home until the car left. After Sun Tzu Chu returned home, his old illness relapsed. He refused to eat or drink. He called Ahbao's name in his sleep, hating that his soul could no longer go to Ahbao's house like last time. He had a parrot at home, and it died suddenly. The children were playing with it beside the bed. Sun Tzu Chu saw it and thought to himself, "If I could become a parrot, I could spread my wings and fly to Ahbao's room." Just as I was thinking about it, my body turned into a parrot and flew out gracefully, all the way to Ahbao's room. Ahbao happily caught it, tied its legs with a rope, and fed it with hemp seeds. The parrot suddenly said in a human voice, "Sister, don't tie me up, I am Sun Tzu Chu." Ahbao was startled and hurriedly untied the rope, but the parrot did not fly away. Ahbao prayed to the parrot and said, "Your deep love has been engraved in my heart. Now that we are different humans and animals, how can a good marriage be reunited?" The parrot said, "My wish has been fulfilled by being by your side." It refused to eat when others fed it, but it was willing to eat only when Ahbao fed it. When Po sat down, the parrot squatted on her lap. When Po lay down, the parrot cuddled next to her. After 3 days of this, Ahbao felt sorry for him and secretly sent someone to check on Sun Chu. He saw his grandson Chu Zhang lying on the bed and had been dead for 3 days, but his heart was still a little warm. Ahbao prayed again, "If you can become a human again, I will be with you even if I die." The parrot said, "You lied to me." Po immediately swore. The parrot squinted its eyes as if thinking about something. After a while, Po bound his feet and took off his shoes under the bed. The parrot suddenly rushed down, picked up the shoes in its beak and flew away. Po called it hurriedly, but the parrot had already flown away. Ahbao sent an old mother to visit, and his grandson Chu had indeed woken up. When the people of the Sun family saw the parrot holding an embroidered shoe in its mouth, it fell to the ground and died. Just when they were feeling strange, Sun Chu had woken up. I started looking for shoes as soon as I woke up, and no one knew what was going on. Just then Ahbao's old mother arrived. When he entered the room and saw Sun Tzu Chu, he asked him where his shoes were. Sun Tzu Chu said, "The shoes are a token of Bao's oath. Please tell me, my grandson Chu will never forget her golden promise." When the old mother came back and told Zeju what she had said, Ahbao was even more surprised. So he asked the maid to leak these things to his mother on purpose. The mother inquired in detail and then said, "Sun Tzu Chu is talented and learned, and has a good reputation, but he is as poor as Sima Xiangru." After choosing a son-in-law for several years, he finally got something like this. I'm afraid he will be the dignitaries are laughing at it. Ahbao refused to marry him because of the shoes, so her parents had no choice but to listen to her. Someone ran to tell Sun Tzu the news. Sun Tzu was very happy and recovered immediately. Ahbao's parents want to recruit their grandson Chu. Ahbao said, a son-in-law should not live in his father-in-law's house for a long time. What's more, his family is poor. If he lives for a long time, he will be looked down upon by others. Since my daughter has promised him, she will live in a thatched house and eat rough food without any complaints. Sun Tzu then went to marry the bride, and the two were as happy to see each other as a couple reunited after a lifetime. Since then, grandson Chu's family has received Bao's dowry, increased their property, and their life has improved. Sun Tzu was just obsessed with books and didn't know how to manage the family and finances. Ahbao is a man who is good at managing his own life, and Sun Tzu does not need to worry about everything in the family. 3 years later, the family became richer, but Sun Tzu suddenly fell ill and died of fever. Ahbao cried very sadly. The tears in his eyes never dried up. He didn't sleep or eat. He didn't listen to anyone's advice. He hung himself at night. After the maid found out, she hurriedly rescued him and finally woke up, but she still refused to eat. 3 days later, the family gathered relatives and friends to prepare for the funeral of Sun Tzu. Hearing groans from the coffin, he opened it and saw that Sun Tzu had come back to life. He said, I met the king of hell. He said that my life was simple and sincere, and ordered me to be a minister. Suddenly someone said, the wife of Sun Bukao is about to arrive. The king of hell checked the book of life and death and said, she is still here. It's not time to die. Someone else said, I haven't eaten for 3 days. The king of hell turned around and said, I'm moved by your wife's righteous behavior, and I want you to be reborn in the human world. So he sent the groom to hold the horse's handle. I sent it back. From then on, Sun Tzu's body gradually returned to normal. This year coincided with the provincial examination. Before entering the examination room, a group of teenagers teased Sun Tzu and prepared 7 weird test questions. They deceived Sun Tzu into a secluded place and said, someone got these test questions through connections. Because we are friendly, I just told you secretly. Sun Tzu believed it to be true. He thought about it day and night and prepared 7 8-part essays. Everyone laughed at him secretly. At that time, the examiner considered that using past questions would lead to plagiarism. So he deliberately went against the rules and handed out the test questions, which were exactly the same as the 7 questions prepared by Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu won the first place in the provincial examination. The next year, he won the Jinshi again and entered the Hanlin Academy. The emperor heard about these strange things of Sun Tzu and summoned him for questioning. Sun Tzu told everything truthfully. The emperor was very praised and happy. Later, he summoned Ahbao and rewarded him with many things.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.